All right, so you're going to get your cup of needles. These are tapestry needles or yarn needles. You can call them either one. There's 5 in your cup. They're not very sharp, but they are really easy to lose. So you need to keep track of them so that you don't lose them while you're working today. If you notice that one is missing from your table group, maybe you only have 4, then you count them up and there's only 4, you need to check, and we'll all work together to try to look for it. Usually the needles just get put back in the yarn box, or sometimes somebody left it attached to their loom. So just check those places first, and then we'll hopefully find it. If you're missing a needle at the end of class today, you will not get your cleanup paintbrush, and we won't get to do our star sticker. So make sure you keep track of all of your needles. I'm going to set it right here so I'm ready to go. Today, your loom needs to look kind of like this. So we are going to warp our loom. You're going to tie an odd number of strings across like that. So that's the very first thing that you'll need to do. And you might have time to start weaving, or you might not. Either way is okay. I want you to at least get those tied on there. So today we're going to do a lot of practicing tying knots. First, you're going to find some yarn. You can do more than one color or all the same. It doesn't really matter for when you're warping it. I'll just take this, maybe I'll do gray for my warped string. Do you see how nice and clean this container is? That's how it should look at the end of class. I don't want to see a tangled mess or like yarn scraps all in here. Yarn scraps are going to go in our sculpture bin where it says yarn scraps. And then if you have like a big tail of yarn that's hanging loose like this, don't just let it hang like that and get all tangled with everything else. You wrap it up gently like that and then put it back in there. You're also going to make sure you use the bin that matches your table color. That way, next time you can find the same colors. Like in case you're doing a pattern of colors, then you'll be able to find the same exact colors that you used last time. Okay, I'm going to tie 3 strings on this one. You could do 3 or 5 is a good number. If you really want to challenge yourself, you can do 7, okay? Or even more if you want to challenge yourself. I need to make the string a little bit longer than my frame, so I'm going to do it basically, it's going to be like double the size of my frame like this, and I'm going to just do 3 for this example. 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Now I'm going to tie. So when we tie, we want to make a loop like this around the top or bottom edge. Like this. It's kind of like you're making the letter P, like that. And then it also makes an X, the 2 pieces. And then I put my littler side of the string, shorter side, through the loop, or through the circle part of the P. Then I'm going to do it again, make a P shape, and then go through the loop like this. So you want to do a double knot, and then I'll just slide it over. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. This time, it looks like a lowercase b, and then I go through the loop, and then pull it snug, like that. Not so tight that it's going to break, but just snug. And then another lowercase b, and then stick it through the loop part, and then pull it snug, like that. You can trim it, but leave about 1 fingertip length of a tail. That way, if it comes undone, you'll be able to still tie it again if you need to. You'll have at least a little bit of extra to tie it. You're going to do this at least 2 more times because you need an odd number. So you could do 3, or you could do 5, or you could do 7. I'm going to go back to this one now. I've already done this one. One of the last things you're going to do today is glue these warped strings down. This will just kind of protect it. So if the knot comes undone, then it won't come off as easily. It'll just kind of keeps it stuck on there. You could do this at the very end of class though, okay? Because it is kind of messy. Yep, you can put it in the drying rack. If it's wet and sticky, you'll want it in the drying rack, okay? All right, I'm going to do a quick demonstration on how to do the weaving part. So if you're ready for it, you can start it today. If you're not ready, just wait till next time, okay? So I have done step number 1, warp the loom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did an odd number of strings. I tied them on. And then number 2, select a fiber, tie one end to the end of the loom or the edge of the loom. So now I'm going to be doing my horizontal strings. I'm going to weave it. So I'm going to do a loop, go under the loop, tie it tight, and then a double knot, make a loop, go through the loop, and pull it tight. And I'm going to start on the bottom here and make my first row on the bottom. When you cut your yarn, you want about 1 arm's length of yarn. So I'm going to trim that because that was a little too long. Now, number 3, step 3. With the other end, so this end, you're going to weave over, under the warp yarn. You can either use your fingers or you can use the needle for this part. So I'm going to put the yarn through the needle. And if this is too much trouble for you, then just use your fingers and weave right through it. You don't have to have the needle. I'm going to go over the blue, under the green, over the blue, under the green, over the blue, and then pull it through. I just made my first row. Then I go around the wooden frame. So go around the wooden frame and do the opposite pattern. So before I went over that blue, so now I'm going under the blue, over, under, and then over the wood. The wooden part of the frame is part of it too. And then I just kind of push it down like that. And then I go around the wooden frame. I'll do one more row. And then under green, over, under, and pull it through. When you start to run out of string, or when time's up, then you're going to take your needle off, and you can, if we're running out of time, you can just kind of wrap up your extra yarn like this and then stick the whole thing in the drying rack. Or if you're ready to switch colors, you want to tie a knot. So I'm going to make a loop, kind of looks like a lowercase b if you use that little string right, or that little section here, and then go through that loop that I just made with the short end, pull it tight, and then add a little dab of glue so that it doesn't unravel.
And then can we cut off a little of the extra?
And then you can trim it leave about 1 fingertip right here, like that, okay? Make sure your name is on the loom somewhere. So somewhere on the wood, I have it right down here, and you will put this carefully on the drying rack today, okay? All right, and you can add more fibers too. So step number 5 says select a new fiber and begin again. Today, make sure you keep track of those needles, put it back in here, make sure your bin of yarn looks nice and neat, and put those back where you got them from. If you have scraps of yarn that you don't use, don't put them in the bin. We do scraps on the sculpture cart in that little container of all the messy scraps, okay? All righty.